Tony Scelzo here. We get a lot of questions about how we network. And believe it or not, we actually have a model that we train called the Rainmakers Model of Networking. And it's pretty simple, really. I developed it about 8 years ago when I realized this is what I was doing to go from zero to over $300,000 in sales in 1 year. I didn't have a choice like many of you. I had to make strategic networking work for me. And so what I want you to think about is you are the center of a hub. This is you, okay? And what you're trying to do in your networking is immediately create 20 significant business relationships. And hopefully those 20 people have one thing in common. They have the same niche. That means they're on target with the same niche. So if you're selling to 1.5 million to 5.5 million doctor's offices, you want to find the other 20 people that are selling to those same doctor's offices. The reason being is they're calling on the same data set that you are. They're making the same relationships you are. And the theory is that if you create a relationship, then they'll also get one through you, and vice versa, okay? If you can get to that point, if you can get 20 strategic relationships, what I did with mine is I said, look, I'm going to look for some characteristics. I'm going to interview and recruit these people like I would any other business. And the first characteristic I look for is, are they best of breed? We call it Bob. Are they best of breed at delivering the value to my target market? That's another significant thing that you look for. Are they really good at email marketing? Are they really good at promotions items? Are they really good at providing practice management software? You've got to ask yourself that question because essentially you're putting your name on the line. The second characteristic you want to look for is, are they Tom? If you create this relationship with them and they don't stay top of mind, you can never find them after the fact. They're not going to do you any good, and you're not going to do them any good. They've got to answer the telephone calls. They've got to show up at your meetings. They've got to make the connections for you, and vice versa, that are going to keep them top of mind so you can get educated about their product and service so you can effectively sell that in the marketplace. The third characteristic is, are they on target? Do they conduct business the way you would conduct business? And the reason this can become a problem is if they don't conduct business the way you do, and you set that expectation for your client and you refer them over, and let's say there's an issue where you would have given them a refund and they don't, now you've severed the relationship with your potential client rather than enabled you to create more business. Now, why is all this worth it? There's some very powerful math that goes behind the Rainmaker model. If you identify these 20 players and you create a mechanism to feed these 20 players. We use event marketing to do this, but the real thing you've got to do is get to about 60 new contacts a month that you're bridging into your network. The reason you've got to do that is because you've created this niche, you've got to create a really large data set to effectively feed these niche players. What you'll find is that about 1/3 of these players are not going to be good for you or anybody in your network. They're going to be what we call fluff. And there's nothing negative about being fluff. It just means that it doesn't make strategic sense for you to be connected to any of these people or yourself. And so what you do with the other 40 is really pivotal. The first person you're looking for at a networking event is you're looking for an influencer. An influencer is the most powerful person you can find in networking. What an influencer does is they influence the purchase of your product or service on your niche. That is a great strategic relationship because one influencer can be a game changer in your business. If you're an attorney who is looking for doctor's offices as potential clients and you meet an accountant that targets doctor's offices, that one strategic relationship can feed you 30–40% of your business for the rest of your business's life. And that's why you go through all the trouble of building this power circle. The second characteristic you're going to look for is a suspect. A suspect is somebody that you suspect is good for somebody else in your network. And all you do is seek to become the bridge. You want to be the conduit to make those two people happen. The reason that you have to look for suspects is before you look for prospects in your own business is you got to feed your sales team. If you don't commission your sales team, if you don't keep them engaged by feeding them with other business, they're not going to look for you. And then you don't have these 20 other people finding you business, which means you've destroyed the ultimate goal of networking, which is leveraging through relationships. The last person you're going to look for is a prospect. I know, I just said that out loud. Are you kidding me? The last person I'm looking for is a prospect in networking? Yes, because a prospect represents one transaction. A suspect feeds the leverage of your sales team. An influencer represents an annuity stream. And annuity streams are ultimately what we look for in Rainmakers. Long-term strategic relationships that will ongoingly grow our business. It's all about annuity streams. Now, after you've done this, you got to know what to do with it. And a lot of people get to here and they don't know what to do. Well, what we teach at Rainmakers is you got to make bridges. You got to build bridges. The first kind of bridge is just a simple intro. It's kind of like, hey, I think you two would play nice together. Maybe you ought to get together for coffee. Maybe you ought to get together for lunch. If you're talking to that lawyer and you're talking to that accountant, you become the bridge that makes the intro. You're not guaranteeing anybody anything at that point. You're just trying to cause the event that hopefully initiates a relationship. The second thing you're going to do, the second most powerful connection, or bridge as we call it, is a referral. A referral is somebody that inquired something about you. So let's say somebody says, hey, I'm looking for an accountant. Who's a good accountant? I would naturally say, hey, try Larry Marietta. He's been my accountant for 5 or 6 years. But it was an inbound question. They were asking me for the information, and then I made the bridge. It wasn't necessarily proactive, which is the most significant difference between Rainmakers and everybody else. If you're a real Rainmaker, what you're going to do is you're going to recommend. And when you make recommendations, you are proactively selling your network. You are proactively making the connections that sell for people. And when you have 20 other salespeople out in the marketplace, you create powerful leverage. And let me just show you some of the math on this. What happens if you're out there doing all these things for your 20 people is that you will, Pareto's law will kick in, and out of your 20 people, 4 people will emerge. And they'll become powerful connectors for you and your business. And they'll create about 4 good connections for you a month. Those 4 connections will translate into 16 connections. Those 16 connections will lead to about 8 meetings for you, which you will close about 4 pieces of business. What would 4 pieces of business a month do for the rest of your business's life? For a lot of us, that would change the zip code we live in. For a lot of us, that would be life-changing. For a lot of us, that would pay for our kids' college education. Is that worth it to you? Here's the reason most people don't do it. It takes time. You're going to put about 90 to 120 days to vet out and find the relationships that do this. And in our immediate gratification, I want my venti mocha coffee now world, most people won't put in the time. Put in the time, get your annuity stream, grow your business.